Maybe real humility only comes after ego has taken control of a few times. Maybe you need to be led by ego. Mess things up, make mistakes, feel embarrassed, feel limited, feel outmatched before humility becomes real. Because forced humility doesn't exist. You can't fake it. You can't jump straight to it. It has to happen naturally. So here's today's question. Does ego ruin your training? Welcome, friends. I'm Fred. Here we talk about training, business, investments, and real life, all from my personal perspective. And today we're talking about ego, because ego is part of training. There's no way around it. Let's get one thing straight right away. Training is not a spiritual retreat where everyone holds hand and sings together. Human beings are human beings. We have virtues, but we have also flaws. There's kindness, yes, but there's also envy, comparison, insecurity, and ego. And ego shows up in training all the time. Let me give you a real example. I am 46 years old, which means, especially in combat sports, I am already considered old. I was training at the gym doing my own thing, calmly, focused, and I noticed a younger guy, around 25 years old maybe, training really well. Strong, fast, sharp. He was in a great phase physically. Some guys were sparring in the ring, and suddenly I felt the urge to step in. Why? Ego. That's the ugly truth. I was fine where I was. I didn't need to prove anything, but ego doesn't ask for permission. Ego whispers, let's see if he's really that good. Show him. You still got it. Teach him a lesson. So I stepped into the ring. Nothing bad happened. I didn't get hurt. I held my own. But it was hard. Very hard. The guy was fast, explosive. His reflexes were sharp. And inside my head, I realized something uncomfortable. I can't keep up the way I used to. At 25, your body responds instantly. At 46, experience helps. But fades. I managed the situation. Used technique, used timing, stayed calm. But it was not easy. Not even close. Afterwards, everything was fine. We talked, nice guy, respectful. But later at home I thought, why did I do that? Why did I put myself in that position? I already know what time does to the body. I already know that generations replace each other. My focus today should be different. Cleaner movement, better posture, more control, better physical conditioning for life, not for ego battles. But in that moment, ego spoke louder. And here's the important part. Ego is not rational. You can understand that time is passing. You can accept it intellectually, but emotionally, that's a different story. You still carry memories of who you were, what you could do, how easy it used to be. And when reality confronts those memories, ego reacts. It wants to defend an identity that no longer exists. Now, someone might say, but Fred, you are still in good shape, man. Yes, but age still matters. It's not about throwing one fast punch. You can still do that. It's about throwing 100 punches, 150, 200 punches. Endurance, recovery, reaction, speed over time. That's where age shows up. And ego doesn't like limits. Ego hates limits. Here's the truth. Being led by ego, it's bad at 25. But at 45, it's worse. Because by then, you should know better. You should know better. But here's another truth, and this is important. You are not perfect, and you don't need to be. You are allowed to fail. You are allowed to notice your ego after it happens, like happened to me. The mistake is not being human. The mistake would be not reflection afterwards. And this ego problem isn't exclusive to combat sports. You see it in soccer, in basketball, in CrossFit, everywhere. That's why people get injured. Someone makes a beautiful play in soccer, for example. Someone lifts heavier. Someone runs faster. And ego says, now it's your turn. In combat sports, this becomes more obvious because it's a physical confrontation. There's no hiding. But the mechanism is the same. What matters is what you do after. You reflect, you adjust, you train smarter. Stopping would be the real mistake. If training is part of who you are, quitting is not the answer. Adapting is. You don't need to compete with younger versions of yourself. You don't need to prove anything. You need to train according to the phase of life you are in. That's intelligence. That's maturity. And this is where solo training becomes powerful. When you train alone, you can slow down when needed. You can push when appropriated. You control the structure. There's no pressure to keep up. No silent competition. No audience. Ego loses strength here. Because the only reference becomes you. The only reference becomes you. And that's healthy. When you train with others, ego can sneak in more easily. You don't want to stop. You don't want to look weak. You don't want to be the first to quit. And sometimes that leads to injuries. Training alone teaches you something valuable. Listen to your body. It's not weakness, it's intelligence. Training smart is not quitting, it's longevity. The goal is not to win a battle today. The goal is to still be training 10, 20, 30 years from now. Ego wants immediate validation. Training wants long-term consistency. These two don't always agree. And here's the paradox. Ego is part of the bad. You probably need ego early on. It pushes you. It makes you show up. But if you don't learn to leave your ego behind later, it becomes a liability. Humility doesn't come from pretending you are humble. It comes from experience, from moments like the one I described, from realizing there is nothing left to prove here. So, does ego ruin training? It can, if you let it lead. But if you notice it, reflect on it, and adjust, ego becomes a lesson, not an obstacle. Train according to who you are today, not who you wish you still were. That's how training stays meaningful, and that's how it stays sustainable. Let me know in the comments, my friends. Has ego ever interfered with your training? How do you deal with it? Thank you for watching, and I see you in the next video.